Good afternoon, folks. I'm here today with Dr. Roth and Dr. Caruso at Penn State University. Greg's a retired grain crop specialist, and Dr. Caruso is taking over. And my name is Dale Voigt with Penn State Extension, and today we're going to focus on wheat. This is a wheat crop that had an extended drought in the fall. We then had extended wet weather in the spring. And so recently, in the last week or so, there's a lot of concern from first purchasers through the flour industry and farmers about how to manage this current crop with the risk of Fusarium head scab. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Roth to discuss some of his 35 years of managing this kind of crop and what might be applicable for today's environment.
Oh, thank you, Del. Yeah, I think we're seeing the consequences of our wet spring on the quality of this crop here. And generally, the quality of our wheat is a function of the environment, the varieties, the fungicides that get applied, the timing of the fungicides, and our harvest management. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. And certainly we had a lot of rain during and after anthesis this year, and that's sort of a critical stage for Fusarium infection. But we do know among the varieties that there is some variation in how well untreated varieties or even fungicide-treated varieties will weather the head scab. And if you talk to your seedsmen or look at some variety testing reports, you'll see how they shake out in terms of scab resistance. Daniela, you're doing some work with your colleagues on scab this year. This particular plot seems like it has a good dose of scab in it.
Yes, it does, and a lot of other plots here do as well. So where we're standing here today is our variety trial, our Penn State's official variety trial. We have two locations of the same trial. We're here at Rock Springs in State College, Pennsylvania, and we have another location in Landisville in the southeast part of Pennsylvania. And we have here a little bit over 50 varieties that we're testing. We do this every year. We evaluate the performance of those different varieties. And this year was really critical for Fusarium head scab and other diseases as well. I mean, this trial was not sprayed. We typically do not spray our trials because of the differences in maturities among all of those varieties that we're testing side by side. And this year we're having a lot of disease incidence and severity. So this year we have done some ratings. Paul Easkert, our plant pathologist, and his group did some ratings on the trial in Landisville. And I had a student who also flew a drone. We're using drone to kind of predict, estimate the amount of disease that we have in fields. And so watch out for the report that's coming out later in July after harvest. This year you're going to be able to see a column there with the disease data that we're seeing here. So it's a really good resource for looking at the natural, like the genetic resistance that each variety has to those diseases, and something to look out when you're purchasing seed for the next season.
That's great. I'm glad varieties still can have DON. The way to really reduce the DON or effects of the vomitoxin is a combination of a resistant variety and a good fungicide. So that'd be a step in the right direction. Some other factors that I think might be critical to think about in variety selection would be resistance to reduced falling number. Some universities are starting to look at falling number differences among these varieties. And falling number is caused when the kernels think it's time to swell and germinate, and they develop the amylase enzyme that affects the grain quality. And some varieties do that worse than others. It's not real good data, but I think in the future through breeding we'll be able to find more falling number resistant varieties. I think Michigan State and Ohio State might have work going on in that area. And the other one to look at, you can kind of see in this field, is the earliness and maturity of varieties. In my tenure, some farmers were really good at growing early varieties, planting them early, and then harvesting them a little on the early side. And they're the guys that are harvesting in late June rather than mid-July. So you can kind of escape some of this humid July temperatures and thunderstorms by getting your wheat in and out in a timely manner. The second thing would be the fungicides and the fungicide timing. We have, some really good fungicides these days, but they still have to be applied on a timely manner. And
which this year was tough because
you were telling me it's been challenging.
Yeah, with all the rain we had this year, when the ideal timing for applying the fungicides for control of fusarium head blight, the scab, is at the beginning of flowering. So when the beginning of anthesis, when the spikelets are starting to open and you can see the anthers showing up. That's the ideal timing, and it's a very short window. And this year, when most of our fields were at that stage, we had non-stop rain and folks couldn't get in the field.
So that's another thing to be aware of, why we might have reduced fungicide efficacy this year. And then a third consideration is harvest management. This is one thing you've preached over the years, Del, with some of your growers. And number one thing is don't let that crop sit out in the field and take on multiple July thunderstorms. And I know in some areas growers are really good at getting the crop out at the 18 to 20% level, drying it, and then that allows them to get back in there with double crop soybeans in a timely manner and avoid some of the planting date delay we know exists in soybeans. And then the other thing is looking at whether we need to make adjustments in our fan speed and try to blow out the kernels. So one technique that's been proposed is to look at the incidence of head scab. So this might be 50% incidence, and the severity might be 20%. You multiply those together and you get, shouldn't have done that.
50 and 20, 70 divided by 10, 100. Yep, 50 times 20 divided by 100, and that's going to give you about a reading of 10.
That gives us
Yep.
a reading of 10. Above 10, then, according to information Dell has, that would be a good time to think about making adjustments to the combine and maybe blowing out some of these smaller kernels. Any other comments?
I just remembered you were mentioning drying, like harvesting earlier with a little bit higher moisture, drying, and then being able to plant a soybean crop right after that. Did you do some research on that before? I feel like I remember seeing.
Yes, we did.
You found, was it better results, like overall?
Yeah.
Spending some money
I think
on
the
the
yield
drying
loss
process.
is something like a bushel of soybeans per day in July. So
overall, if you're able to dry, like spend some money on drying, and to do that system of drying and your soybeans earlier, that was more profitable.
yes, and one of the intangibles is that some of Dell's farmers in Lebanon and Lancaster area, they've developed a reputation as a quality grain supplier. So the industry seeks those guys out first in years where it's questionable, because they know they've taken extra steps to have good quality grain. And on the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, we've been sitting out till the beginning of August when we get a lot of rain in July. It can be really bad quality. So one of the benefits we have in Pennsylvania is some market for feed for this feed wheat, so our industry can handle some of it without drastic discounts, but there's sort of a limit as to what they can do there. But it is one of the benefits of having a good feed market.
Are you hearing anything from the buyers as far as loads coming in and some of the management to keeping the VOM down and the falling numbers?
I'm hearing some benefits that setting the combine appropriately will help reduce the bomb a bit.
Yeah, we've heard from an educator about some grain coming from Delaware that was also high in bomb, and they were seeing the cleaner grain was those situations where folks were able to increase their combining, their wind speed, and blow some of the light grains back in the combine.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up. If there's some fact sheets that were put out in the last week on this. One is on assessing the crop, so you can isolate which fields should be targeted last in your combining or first, depending on where you're going to go with the seed. And those are all available on our web. I'll put a link to it in the description. And hopefully, if you have any more questions, you can see one of our extension crop team members, and we can get those questions answered. Thank you for your time and attention.